Hi, Joel here. In this video, I'm going to talk about needs, and I'm pretty sure I'll be talking about needs a lot over the course of this journey because I see needs as the fundamental unit of analysis of any one science that might help us to understand and transform our world because it's pretty undeniable that every living creature has needs. Life itself has needs, not just to survive, but to flourish. Needs are the engine of the evolutionary process. And I'm not just talking about the most obvious physical needs. I'm talking about social needs, emotional needs, psychological needs, spiritual needs. And when we bring them all together, we're talking about a rich tapestry, a wealth of needs of that express that totality of the potential human experience. So in this video, what I'm going to do is look at a well-meaning political, kind of progressive political strategy and show you what happens if you use the language and the thinking around wants versus what happens when you open up to the language and thinking about needs. And we're going to start, though, in the land of wants and show you how dominant it is in our culture by having a look at Jeremy Bentham. Now, if you don't know Jeremy, yeah, we're on first name terms. Jeremy Bentham was an absolute foundation, a bedrock of 19th century economic and social liberal thought. He was vital in developing what became the quote unquote science of economics, giving it the concept of utility, seeing human beings as selfish, individuals who were out there to maximize their utility, i.e., try to satisfy as many wants and desires as they could. And he was also essential to developing the concept of the market as this separate realm that should not be transgressed by the state or any other forces. And if it was left to its own devices, then everybody would be able to maximize their utility. In other words, everybody who participated in it could satisfy their wants and desires. So let's hear what he has to say. He says, one intermediary buys from another in the hope that after transforming the commodity into a form suitable for satisfying wants, he in turn will be able to sell it at a profit. The chain may be very long, but always at the end of it stands the final consumer who buys the consumer's goods. We conclude, therefore, that the rationale of economic activity is to satisfy human wants by producing consumers' goods. So it's this last sentence that is really the nutshell of it. So the whole rationale of having an economy is to satisfy human wants through the consumption of commodities. And that really is, whether we know it or not, implicit or not, it's very often explicit, really at the heart of how we are supposed to experience and go about creating our reality and making it supposedly a satisfying one. So let's take a look at what happens when people on the left use the language of wants in this kind of Benthamite style, whether they know it or not. So let's have a look at a recent clip featuring Owen Jones, who's a very celebrated broadcaster, columnist with The Guardian, writer, Michael Walker, who leads Novara Media, which is an excellent alternative left-wing media platform, and Paul Mason, a real veteran on the scene, and a fantastic journalist, an excellent writer, a great thinker, and all three I have immense respect and admiration for. But this is a discussion from a recent Owen Jones broadcast where Paul Mason uses the language of wants. So let's check it out.
But I'm going to come on to that now. Actually, talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, someone's asking there about, do you think Labour needs to become more right wing to win back the red wall? That wasn't actually. I don't think the argument you're making there. This is Zizu. Hello. What would you say, just quickly to that? Because I'm going to bring in the polling because they worry and push the landscape to the right.
And Stelios Fotinopoulos said it before on another thing. Hi Stelios, by the way. Are you calling for 90s social democracy? No, absolutely not. But why I always argued, and I've been consistent on this. This is why I thought the second referendum and the Lexit thing was pointless. That those working class communities, what they care about? They care about antisocial behaviour, crime, extreme unfairness, extreme rundownness, extreme absence of services. They want Labour to represent them and support the armed forces. The hardest places to canvass are the Help for Heroes windows. Now, as a good ex-Leninist, I start from where the masses are. What do the masses want? Well, that's what they want. And you've got lots of people on the Labour left, say Howard Beckett, putative leader of Unite, calls me a traitor and a coward for saying that, because what the Lexit left thought was that if you give them Lexit, you don't have to make the hard yards on policing, social justice, crime, defense, security. You can give them Lexit, and then you can say that maybe the Russians didn't poison Sergei Skripal. That is what blew up in our faces. And I don't need to take any responsibility for it because I fought it for 2 years. So no, we're not turning to the right. There's nothing right wing in a working class community about wanting the police to catch criminals. Because if they steal your stuff, well, like me sitting in London, kind of with a professional job, then you can't insure your house. That's the problem. If they steal your car, you don't get it back. And we need to start listening to those communities.
So there's Paul Mason using the language and thinking of wants. He says, I'm an ex-Leninist. I'm always interested in what the masses want. And he's right to say we need to listen to the communities that have been left behind. But I don't think he's right to say they know what they want, because I haven't got a clue what I really want most of the time. Apart from an obvious thing like a good meal or a glass of water or whatever, I haven't got the foggiest. And actually what I'm going to argue here and hopefully show is that behind our wants are feelings, and behind those feelings are needs that are not being satisfied. And that's really where we need to be. And the danger is if we start a political strategy with worrying about what people want, we get this kind of stuff. And this is, check this out, this is what Labour's just come up with.
Should we close up border zone? The answer is yes. I was an advocate to closing them last March.
So there you have Labour making the case for a policy that I wholeheartedly agree with. It should have been flipping done a year ago. Close the borders so that we can limit the transmission of this virus from this island and into this island. Obvious. However, it's so clear that what they've done there with the graphics, with the sound, is to tap in viscerally to our fear and to make it quite clear that they are linking this idea of closing the borders to deeper symbols of xenophobia and racism that relate to immigration policy. It's absolutely clear, and they're doing that quite strategically because they think that's what people want. So that's what you get when supposedly a progressive political party starts with worrying about and being scared of meeting what people want in order to get re-elected. So what do we do instead? Well, let's reject the language and the thinking of wants and embrace instead the language and thinking of needs. And let's see where we go from here. So take a look at this. I've made this little table where on the right hand side you've got these putative or supposed wants, and these are a list of these right-wing policies. Now we have to start feeling into what people are really feeling when they think they want these things, and that is an empathetic practice, and it's not exactly difficult to do. Let me show you how I did it. So the first thing I did was to consult my wheel of feelings. This is produced by Shanti Garber and Gazina here in Bristol, who run Seed of Peace, that offer amazing training in non-violent communication. So I just felt into these words and noticed which words generated a strong energetic response in me. And I felt that these were feelings that were probably present in people who had come to think that they want such policies that really ultimately harm and divide us. The next thing I did was to consult the wheel of needs. And these are, again, feeling into these words, feeling into which needs felt like needs that were not being satisfied, not being met in people's lives, so that they come to feel these unpleasant things and then therefore subsequently come to think they want these really damaging policies. So from here we can come back to the table I produced. So here I've listed all of the feelings that I felt into that I felt were relevant. And again, this is not you don't need any incredibly empathic skills to do this. Clearly, people who are wanting these policies are either directly victims of, let's say, antisocial behavior or criminal action, or who are living in communities where these things are happening often and are living in fear of them. So people are feeling frightened, people are feeling anxious, people are feeling even distressed, people are feeling helpless, that nothing can be done, and then feeling furious or even absolutely angry or full of rage even. And I'm sure they're also feeling very desperate. There may be confusion that people feel that, having a country where we open our borders and our arms to people who are coming to try to make a better life, particularly those who are escaping danger and persecution, is a good and important thing. And they may feel confused that they then now support policies that are against that. And there may well be a lot of resentment. Resentment may be directed to people who are doing very well, whilst most of us are struggling and suffering, or it may be directed to outsiders because of media influence. However, let's go even deeper away from these, or deeper down from these feelings into the realm of needs. What are the needs that are not being satisfied, not being met, that create these painful feelings and lead people to want these right-wing policies? Clearly, the need for physical safety, the need for respect, the need to be seen, to be seen with dignity, to have peace of mind, to have security, but also, in putting it in more positive frames, the need for harmony, the need for play, for people to be able to be outside, go outside, enjoy themselves with other people. So there's a need for communion as well. There's a need for beauty, for peace, for flourishing, and for hope. There's obviously a deep, deep need for hope. When we begin from thinking and thinking about what we want, then we reach a situation where we feel that our wants are completely irresolvable. They're completely antagonistic. I want white, you want black. When we deepen and come inside and sit in stillness and reconnect with ourselves and relate properly and truly with other people, then we can reach the level of needs, where we can see that behind even seemingly antagonistic, oppositional wants are actually the same need. And then from a situation of scarcity, we can come into a place of abundance where options just open up in order so that all needs can be satisfied. I began this video with a quote from Jeremy Bentham, which really expressed what is dominant, hegemonic today, an economism, whereby we experience and create a world of scarcity, where we're competing against each other as selfish individuals trying to satisfy our wants. Let's end instead with a quote from Karl Marx. In his early writings, Marx writes, "It will be seen how in place of the wealth and poverty of political economy comes the rich human being and the rich human need. The rich human being is simultaneously the human being in need of a totality of human manifestations of life. So to truly satisfy our humanity, we need to satisfy a true rich tapestry of needs. And we do that in an interdependent cooperation." So what would happen instead of starting a political strategy with thinking of an economistic thinking of fear and scarcity, where we're worried about what people might want? Let's do what Paul Mason said. Let's listen to communities, but let's not listen to what we want, but let's go deeper into what we're feeling, and also the needs are not being satisfied, the needs are not being met, that are generating these painful feelings. Now, I'm no member of the Labour Party, and I probably never will be. I kind of feel the Labour Party is there to just crush the hopes and dreams of working people. And I suspect no one from the Labour Party is watching this, but if they are, I would love them to have a rethink, to reject the language and thinking of wants, and do what Paul Mason says, which is listen to communities, but not listen to what they want or what they think they want, but listen instead on a deeper level to their feelings and their needs. And from that place, generate a political strategy. From that place, come up with policies that will truly meet people's needs. And if you do that, then I can guarantee that this right-wing agenda will just dissolve, because when people's needs are met, they're quite happy with themselves, they're quite happy with their communities, and they're quite happy to welcome anyone and everyone. So what I've tried to do here is to apply what I'm developing, the spiritual materialist framework, to a real concrete political situation, political concern, and try to show how it opens up in a much richer and more many more possibilities emerge. Lots more content to come. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you need. Cheers.